when I got sober, after I did a couple of those flood doses to solidify my sobriety, I wanted to do a boga. And a boga had been on my radar for about 4 years. My son's mom actually brought it to me. And there's a constituent, or sorry, an alkaloid in there called ibogaine. And that's like the main alkaloid in there that brings you to that place where you can travel and connect to your soul and stuff like that. But they use it for heroin addicts. And you can taper down off the heroin. You go onto something like morphine like that, that's a little more controlled. And you get down to a level, and then they give you ibogaine, and it actually pushes all of the opiates out of your opiate receptors, making it so that you don't have like days or weeks of withdrawal. You have it all in one night. It's quite extreme, but it's done in a night.
Yeah.
But also not only that, but you connect to your soul. So your soul's like, this is why you're using. This is why. You know, this is the disconnect. Like, this is where the trauma was. This is what happens. And you love on that, and you connect to that in a different way, and you see it for what it was instead of it controlling you, right? And you release it out of your body, because we hold trauma in our body too. So you purge, and that comes out of your body, and you're releasing it. You become more into your homeostasis, right? Like your natural state, which is a beautiful thing, because then things start working a little bit better, right? Your thought patterns are better, and you just, yeah, man, life gets beautiful. And I was blessed to be able to be in a documentary about it with 5 other participants. And it was just a magical time. We spent 8 days in Costa Rica with some beautiful providers. And they brought us to a very beautiful place with this medicine, you know, and they did it with a thing called the Bawidi tradition. And Bawidi is kind of a way of life in like the Central Africa, in a couple different countries. There's Gabon, Cameroon, and the Congo, but mainly Gabon. And then it's like that medicine there is so sacred that you can't actually take it out of Gabon. It's a sacrament. And these people were trained by a 10th generation Bawidi guy that came to Costa Rica and trained them in the ways of their people, right? And, you know, they go to Africa. They do initiations where you take a boga for 4 days and you dance and they play music, you know, and you connect, and it's pretty intense, you know. And my teacher, Gary Cook, is a beautiful human. He's agreed to mentor me now for becoming a provider myself too, because after everything that I've gone through, I'm able to have this like beautiful perspective and empathy with these people, especially addicts that are struggling. And through my struggles, I can now help people through theirs. And I just think it'll be amazing to be able to work with a boga. Me and a boga now have a beautiful relationship. You know, like I took my microdose this morning, and you know, it helps me connect to myself, and it just makes me see things, you know, like in a more of an ego-assisted life than an egocentric life, right? It's just beautiful medicine.
With that stuff, like, how did you get into like the documentary and that opportunity? Like, because it's kind of, you know, like I know a lot of people that will go on these plant medicine retreats or go do an 8-day thing. But how did that become integrated with the documentary, and like how did that all come up, and you be the one to go there and experience that?
It's funny because it's all part of my path when I look at it, right? Like you see it and you're like, oh yeah, okay, right? But so what happened is the Dose documentary came out. I don't know if you've seen that.
No.
So Dose is a documentary filmed here in Vancouver about one girl that has struggled with addiction with heroin. And they start by giving her microdoses with mushrooms, and then they give her a couple flood doses with mushrooms.
What's a flood dose?
So like a flood dose is like a larger dose, right? So a macro dose, right? So, and you know, like, yeah, she gets some benefit out of it, but like mushrooms are very beneficial, but you know, for someone that's got deep trauma, sometimes you need a little bit more, or like super high doses. Excuse me. Especially with somebody that's trained properly, and they didn't really have anyone that was trained properly. They're just like these film documentary guys. They're like, oh yeah, you know, we think this will help you and you should try it. And she wanted to, and it wasn't quite doing, you know, she's going back and forth and oh yeah, I was doing better. Oh, and then you go, and that's what happens, right? Like that's part of the path, right? Like I tell a lot of people, like if you're going to get sober, relapse and slips and all these things are part of recovery, because you do that when you hopefully learn every time that happens, right? You usually don't get it on the first time. I think it's like 1% of people get it on the first time, right? The typical amount of times it takes a heroin addict to get sober is 11. Yeah. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's a lot.
Right? It took me 7 times in recovery. And I tried way more than the 7. I tried by myself too.
Right.
But and then they, they were talking to these other people, and they had a book, because they have a boga here in Canada. Canada, it's legal. Boga is legal. Ibogaine is now class 4, which is what they were providing. And there's a place called a Boga Soul, and there's a guy named Mark Howard, and that's what he does, is he works with addicts. And so she goes in there and she does a boga, and yeah, she's been clean for, I guess, I don't know, like 3 years now, something like that. And my girlfriend at the time was like, "Oh, there's this dope documentary. Do you want to go see it?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Awesome." She sent me the info and bought the tickets, and I was like, "Sweet." So I'm checking out the website, and that's when it dawned on me, because I was like, like, I've been sober for, I forget what it was now. It was like maybe like 6 months when she sent me this. And it dawned on me, and I'm like, okay, the mushrooms have been doing really good work with me. I'm like, but I know what this medicine is going to do because I've researched it before. I'm like, it's on my radar again. I'm like, yeah, I want to do this. I'm working in camp. I got the money to do this, but I didn't want to do it through a boga soul because it's ibogaine. And I'm like, I wasn't an addict anymore. I didn't need 30 days in treatment, right? And that's what that program is, like a 30-day program. I'm like, well, maybe I can find something a little bit less. And so there's this little click thing on the website, and it was a boga wellness center. And I just clicked on it, and I was like, oh, cool. All right, cool. Yeah, no, this place. I'm like, Costa Rica.
Yeah.
I'm like, I love Costa Rica. I've been there before. I'm like, yeah, let's do this, right? So, and like the price was pretty much the exact same. Like obviously 8 days instead of 30, but it was about the same. And I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, I want to do this. So I got in contact with a guy named Levi down there. He's the one that manages the facility. And yeah, we started talking, and I was like, yeah, definitely want to do it. He's like, oh, do you have any dates? And I was like, yeah, I was thinking like January. He's like, okay, well, take a look at them again and let me know. And I went and looked again, and there was one in December 13th. And it was like, discount. I'm like, I like discounts. Like, who doesn't like not spending money, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. I'm like, what's this about? They're like, oh, well, we're filming a documentary down there. And I'd actually been on live TV several months before that for the Hometown Heroes Burn Foundation. And I'd been in like the newspaper. I was on breakfast television. I was on CTV morning news, like the national, and talking about that, right? I was like, oh, well, I'm like, I really want to be able to have a voice for addicts about these medicines and like how you can get better. This is perfect opportunity. So I applied, I sent them all of my clips and a little write-up about myself. And they're like, yeah, we definitely want you.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.